Hello, students. Welcome back. So we're going to move on now and kind of discuss the other side. It says rewrite the integers that are not circled in the space below. How are these integers different from the ones you circled? So if you kind of look at back, yours of course should be circled here, but when I restart, kind of everything I put in pin goes away. But these ones, hopefully over here, you should see are not circled. So once again, I'm just going to copy and paste. You can go ahead and just simply write them in. That's perfectly fine. So what do we notice about these integers? Well, how are they different from the ones that are circled? Well, these ones are different because they are all negatives. These are all negative numbers. The ones that were circled are negative integers. The ones that were circled were all positive, and with the exception of 0. So that's kind of what we should notice. We should notice that the ones that are not circled, that do not have the same absolute value, are all negative. So if we look at the next part, so there you go. That's what it asks us to do. We just simply took all the ones that were not circled and brought them down and put them in order. We noticed what they were how they were different. These are negative. The ones that were circled up here are positive. All right, next part. It says rewrite the negative integers in ascending order and their absolute values in ascending order. Well, ascending order means, if you don't know, it means from least to greatest. Well, we already have them in ascending order. Ascending order, once again, it means going from the smallest number to the greatest number. And these are already in ascending order. So we go ahead and we copy and we go ahead and paste. These are already in ascending order. These already go from least to greatest. However, when we look at their absolute value, so now we need to write their absolute value in ascending order below. Well, if we look at their absolute value from the problem above, let's go ahead and copy and paste this down. Don't copy this down just yet, because we're going to check. Something's going to kind of be a little bit different. Just let me go ahead and copy and paste this below, just so we can kind of compare. If we look at these two sets of numbers, the top portion is in ascending order because it goes from the smallest number to the largest number. -12 is smaller than -1. If we look at their absolute values, this is not in ascending order, going 12 to 9, 5, 2, and 1. This is in descending order. It's getting smaller and smaller. So if we kind of look at it in ascending order, the 1 would become first. That's the smallest number. 2 is next, 5, 9, and 12. So these are actually backwards. So if I was to write this in ascending order, the 1 would come first, the 2 would come second, the 5 would come next, because these are the absolute values of -1, absolute value of -2, absolute value of -5, and then the absolute value of 9, and then the absolute value of 12. So these are in ascending order based on the absolute values. So there you go. That's kind of what they asked us to do. This is the ascending order of the integers. This is the ascending order of their absolute values. So now if we go ahead and we describe how are the orders of the absolute values compared to the order of negative integers. If we look at these, how are these compared? How are these related? So kind of take a moment, kind of think about it. I want you to go ahead and write stop the video. I want you to write a statement and describe what do you notice about these, and then come back and I'll kind of talk with you about what the answer should be. So go ahead and pause the video real quick and then come back. All right, hopefully you took a look at this and hopefully you noticed that the orders are opposites. -12 comes first, -9, 5, 2, and -1, and then their absolute values are in the opposite order. 1 comes first, 2, 5, 9, and then 12. So hopefully you notice that the order of the negative integers and their, oops, I spelled that wrong, and their absolute values are opposites, or an opposite order. Yeah, there you go. That looks good. The order of the negative integer and their absolute values are opposites. because it goes from -12 first, and its absolute value is +12. So they're going in opposite direction. And the positive one from before, they were in the same order. When we're talking about the negatives, of course, because all absolute values are positive, they're in the opposite order. So hopefully you have something like this down. If you did not, please go ahead and fix that. Pause the video and fix that. Otherwise, go ahead and move on kind of to our last example together. All right, excuse me. In example number 2 here, it says the order of negative integers and their absolute value. It says draw arrows, excuse me, stating, starting at the dash. So here's the dash. Line 0, and of course there's 0. This is the dash line 0. It says to represent each integer shown on the number line below. The arrow of the corresponding with 1 and 2 have been modeled for you. So as you can see, here's 1, here's a kind of a corresponding arrow, and here's 2. So we have to kind of fill in the rest of them. So if you need to, go ahead and pause, go ahead and get started on it. I'm going to do it as well. So hopefully you notice that the third line up, 1, 2, 3, goes to line 3. The fourth line up goes to line 4. And the fifth line up goes all the way to line 5. All right, now if we go to the negative side, it'll kind of be the same thing. The -1 down here goes to the line, one line down goes to -1. 2 lines down goes to -3. 3 lines down go to -3. 4 lines down go to -4. And the last one, 5 lines down, go to -5. All right, so let's go and based on kind of this model here, let's go ahead and look at what they say. As you approach 0 from the left on the number line, the integers blank, but their absolute values of those integers blank. So as we approach 0 from the left, here we go, we're approaching 0 from the left, the integers what? The integers are getting, are increasing or getting bigger. So the integers increase. All right, let me pull that up just a little bit. There we go. So as you're going from left to right, the integers increase in value. But what about their absolute values? Well, their distance from 0, that's what these arrows represent, their distance from 0. This is a big distance from 0, smaller distance, smaller, smaller, smaller. They decrease. So as we approach from the left, their absolute values decrease. I forgot the R. There we go. Go ahead and move that back up. So the numbers themselves, the integers increase in value, but their absolute values, which these lines represent right here, because remember, distance from 0, decrease, or they get smaller and smaller. So this means the order of the negative integers is, and of course we kind of just talked about this, the order is the opposite. And that's kind of what we have to understand is the absolute value of a negative number and, sorry, the absolute value of a negative integer is the opposite of that integer. So this means the order of a negative integer is the opposite, the order of the absolute value, because the negative integers increase in value, -5, -4, -3, -2, -1, but their absolute value, their distance from 0, decreases in value. All right, so that's kind of the video notes based on kind of understanding the order. You're going to go ahead and get started on exercise 1. You can work with your partner on this one and just simply start identifying kind of where the placement is, and then go ahead and follow down and start ordering them in the subsets. So go and start working on this with your partner. If your partner's not done, go and start working on it on your own.